Alright guys, today we're going to talk about one of those stories that, had it not been verifiably true, I don't think anyone would have believed it. I know I probably would not have believed it, and I would have had good reason to be skeptical. It's just a crazy situation. So let's dive right in. This guy right here, 50-year-old Darren Thornton, back in mid-November of 2020, was arrested by Chesterfield County Police for solicitation of prostitution from a minor. So that's back on November 19th, 2020, that this guy gets picked up by police for trying to solicit sex from a minor, right? And as this is happening, you get charged, you have to be arraigned, you get booked, you get an attorney, you go through the motions of a legal proceeding, right? So this takes some time, and he did not get convicted of this charge up until March 11th, 2022. So you have this big window of time between when he is charged from when he is convicted. You have that gap in between those two dates, right? So after he is convicted of this charge on March 11th, 2022, a little while later, after March, in June of 2022, Chesterfield police say they arrested him again, a second time, for soliciting prostitution during a sting operation. So just after he gets convicted of trying to solicit a minor for prostitution, yet again, he has caught himself up in a web of trying to solicit prostitutes. But this time, the second time, it's not relating to a minor. At least the charge doesn't say it is. It just says that he was trying to solicit prostitution, right? Now, maybe this isn't the biggest story in the world, because had it not been for what I'm about to say, because we see things like this happen more often than we would probably like to admit. It's unfortunate. But here comes the kicker. All of a sudden, it is realized that this guy, Darren Thornton, is a Virginia guidance counselor at a middle school. That is what we subsequently learn after his second arrest. So, this is what happens. This guy gets arrested in 2020 for solicitation of a minor. And throughout this whole period, up until the time he gets convicted, and then after he gets convicted, and then gets rearrested for a second charge of prostitution, all the way up until that time, which is a 20-month window of time, all the way through that, he is working as a guidance counselor for a Fairfax Public School middle school. And it's not until July of 2022 that the superintendent of the schools was finally put on notice that, hey, this is a guy here who not only has been charged once, convicted once, but now has been charged again with solicitation of prostitution. Did the superintendent finally put measurements in place to have this guy weeded out from the school system? You have so many questions, right? You have to wonder to yourself, throughout this whole 20-month window, from the first time he got charged up until conviction, up until the second time he got charged for a completely separate offense, throughout that 20-month window, what was this guy thinking in his mind? Like, you would have to be completely amazed that nobody has caught on to this. You have to be just shaking in your boots every day, thinking in your mind, how is it I am in this position where I am working with kids every day, knowing that, number one, I have a charge of solicitation of minors hanging over my head, and then two, up until the point you're convicted and registered as a sex offender, you're still working for the school system, and then you get arrested a second time, and it's like still nobody is hip to the fact that you have a problem here and you're working in a middle school as a guidance counselor. What do you think this guy was thinking in his mind? I would love to ask him that question. For 20 whole months with these charges looming over his head, you have got to just ponder what his mental state was. I would just love to ask him that question. The second thing you gotta wonder, how is it throughout that whole 20-month cycle, no one followed up on this situation? How did nobody double check on this situation? They reached out the first time, or they allegedly reached out the first time this happened, to the school superintendent via email. The police department emailed the school system to let them know that, hey, this guy was just picked up on solicitation of a minor, and then that whole period runs by from charge to conviction, and then he gets rearrested again. What was it like to send that second email to the school system to inform them that he had been arrested again? The guy who was emailing the school system at that point had been informing the school system that an already registered sex offender had just been charged with a sex crime yet again. As the person sending that email at the police department, you would have to be scratching your head, no? You would have to be like, this dude is a legitimate sex offender. Why am I sending a second email about this? Like, why do I have to email a school to let them know that a registered sex offender has been rearrested? Evidently, the first time around, when they had sent the original email against Darren Thornton the first time he got arrested, that email that was sent was bounced back as undelivered, meaning that the school system was never fully put on notice, right? So I guess that's an answer, I don't know, but at the same time, you have to wonder, how is it that no one ever found out? I mean, do they not have newspapers? They don't report stuff like this? It is just one of those crazy situations where 20 months is a long time. Now, ultimately, Darren Thornton got 5 years of probation, right? So 5 years of probation, he got a 5-year sentence with all the time suspended, so he's not going to be looking at any jail time. Reporters and people in the news media have been obviously bombarding this new superintendent of the school, trying to figure out how this failure went unnoticed for such a long time. And as the superintendent, she is admitting that the school system has a lot of egg on their face, which is obvious at this point. All you can really do is crisis management. All you can do is damage control in this situation, because what would you expect they would come out and say? They're just going to come out and say, well, listen, we're going to put measurements in place to make sure this does not happen again. What else can you say in a situation like this? It's a developing story, and it will be so interesting to see what happens with his prostitution case that's upcoming. Will he go to prison for that? We don't know. There are just tons of questions, a crazy story, and a scenario that is as unlikely as all hell. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll catch you the next time.